Food is one of the important aspects of our yoga journey. If you want to really achieve great heights in the field of yoga, food is extremely important. So what exactly are the things that we have to take care as part of yogic food? We'll understand that in this particular video. One of the greatest physician, Greek physician Hippocrates, he said that let food thee be the medicine and medicine be the food. It's a wonderful way to summarize the importance of food itself. And Hippocrates, as most of you are aware of it, is considered to be the father of modern medicine. And if this statement comes from a father of modern medicine, you just know the importance of the food itself. In India, it's a very common saying to say, Jaisahan Vaisaman. The kind of food you eat, it's going to affect the kind of mindset one will have. And in yoga, when we talk about food, it is not just the food we intake from our mouth. It is the food that we take in from all our sense organs. Because every sense organ is like is interacting with the outside world and feeding in some new thought patterns into our mind. So essentially all of that is a food for us. And that all of it together, it affects the kind of mindset one will have. And now this is when I want to stress the importance of yoga itself. And yoga is not just about doing some asanas or a physical workout kind of a thing. The purpose of yoga is to calm the mind. That's what the Patanjali says. Yoga is chitta vritti nirodha. It is the whole purpose of yoga is to calm your mind, is to reduce the modifications of the mind. And that's the essential importance of yoga practice. And what causes the modifications to the mind? That's the food we take. Again, the food we take from all the sense organs. All of that together affects the mindset. And this concept of food, or the choice of food that we make, is beautifully explained in Bhagavad Gita. In Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says how one makes a choice of the food. He says, Aharastvapi sarvasya trividho bhavati priyaha yagnas tapastata dhanam tesham bedamimam shrunu. What is he trying to say? He says the choice of food, sacrifice, austerities and charity that a person does, it all depends on the gunas. What is guna now? What exactly is a guna? He's trying to mention here. The guna is nothing but it is a fundamental qualities that influences one's behavior. And predominantly there are three different qualities are there. One is rajas. Rajas is one which is driven by activity, which drives one to make a lot of activity. You can say that passion driven kind of a activity is all rajas. And the exact opposite to that is tamas, where it is just dullness, ignorance. And if a person is driven by tamas, he doesn't want to do anything. He just lies down, chill, idle. In between that is what is balance all about. That is a Satwik quality. And the whole purpose of yoga is to enhance this Satwik tendencies within oneself and to establish a balance between the two extremes, rajas and tamas. And in Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna also goes on to say that yoga is all about equanimity. It is about establishing a balanced state of mind. And that is exactly what is driven by Satwik nature. It's a purity, it's goodness, and it establishes once a balanced state of mind. And that is exactly what we are all aiming for in the yogic journey. Okay, fine, this is the purpose of food, and one makes a choice. Krishna says one makes a choice based on its tendencies, based on his or her own natural tendencies. If a person is Satwik in nature, what kind of food he chooses? He goes on to explain this further. He says, Ayu sattva balarogya sukha priti vivardhanaha rasya snigdha sthira radya ahara satvika priyaha. So what he is trying to say is, a Satwik food is a kind of a food which promotes longevity, it promotes strength, health, happiness and satisfaction. How does this food be? And the properties of such food is, it is rasya, which is juicy, succulent, which is tender, and it is nourishing and it is pleasing to the heart. And these are the qualities of a Satwik food. And now Krishna is saying that one chooses a Satwik food based on the gunas. That means if a person is driven from a Satwik tendency, Satwik qualities, then he is the kind of a person who chooses this kind of a food, which is very important, because a lot of times we just say only the one way, where the food is influencing the mindset, Jaisa an, Vaisa man. But Krishna is saying the other way, Jaisa man, Vaisa an. That's exactly what Krishna is pointing here, which is extremely important, particularly when you are dealing with a patient or somebody who is sick. The choice that a person is making, it decides what kind of a nature or what is the mindset of a person. So Satwik food is the food which is basically makes the body lighter. It creates that calm and a peaceful mind. All your fruits, most vegetables, grains, beans, nuts, all cold pressed oil is all something which falls under a Satwik food. And then what is a Rajasik food? Sri Krishna goes on to explain, Katvam lalavanatyushna tikshna ruksha vidahinaha ahara rajasasyeshta dukkha shokamaya pradaha. A Rajasik food is a food which enhances or increases pain, grief and diseases. So any food that increases all these qualities is considered to be a Rajasik food. And what are the Rajasik food? He goes on to say the Rajasik food is a food which is bitter, sour, salty, very hot, pungent, dry and chillyful. And again, Krishna is saying a person, if he is choosing these kind of a food, and that means a person is driven from Rajasik mindset. Okay? And now he goes on to say, what is this Rajasik food then? Rajasik food is something which creates restlessness, which creates agitation, which creates anger, grief, pain, suffering. All these are driven, which drives a person to do something else, is something which is all Rajasik in nature. Examples are coffee, oil, onions, spicy food, tobacco, very hot, bitter, sour. All these food falls under the category of Rajasik food. Now what is Tamasik food? Or rather we can say now, what is the kind of a food chosen by a person who is having Tamasik mindset? He says, Yatayamam gatarasam puti paryushitam chayat uchishtam apicha medyam bhojanam tamasapriyam. So a Tamasik food is a food which is a stale food, tasteless food, putrid food, polluted food, leftover food and impure food. And a person who is choosing this food is a person who is having a Tamasik mindset. And the food, Tamasik mindset is something which drains the energy. That's exactly what this Tamasik food does. Because every food that we intake, it needs some energy to get absorbed in our body. In order to make our body, it needs to assimilate that food and convert into what we are today. And that takes energy. And the Tamasik food takes a lot of energy to do this. And that's why what we get out of the food ultimately is a very less source of energy. That's why we are getting drained out of the energy. And the way to know it is, after eating Tamasik food, you'll feel like very lethargic. I don't want to get up and do anything now. I just want to sleep. And these are the qualities which indicates that, okay, we are eating a Tamasik food. And it also makes one dull. That's the quality of a Tamasik food. Examples are meat, egg, mushrooms, potatoes, fried food, frozen food, alcohol, drugs. All of these things comes under Tamasik food. What a beautiful way to look at it. Look at the definitions of food from Bhagavad Gita, where he says, Jaisa man, Vaisa an. And next, let us look at the general principles of yogic food itself. Definitely by now you know that the kind of food a yogi should eat is Satwik food. A Satwik food is what is conducive for the path of yoga, because yoga is all about controlling the mind. But even after eating Satwik food, it also talks about moderation. What is moderation? Moderation essentially means one should eat the food, even if it is Satwik food, you should not eat too much. It's not like stomach full of food. The yoga Yogic text goes on to say that one should eat only half the stomach of food, 1/4 of water, and 1/4 should be kept empty. And that's essentially the concepts of moderation that it talks about, where you should not eat stomach full. Very important. Even if it is Satwik food, if you're eating stomach full of food, again that food can make you dull and lethargic, because the entire energy now goes on to digest the food that you have taken. That's why you should maintain moderation in one's eating. Then it goes on to talk about mindful eating. Even if you're eating Satwik food, if your mind is somewhere, that food will not get the qualities that it deserves. If you're thinking about something, or if you're watching a television and eating food, or you're just on a mobile phone or shouting at somebody, all of these negative tendencies around is just going to drain your energies down, and you will not get the right amount of the Satwik tendencies from the food that you're eating. Even if you're eating the Satwik food, if you don't follow it, you will not get the qualities that is required. The way the food is prepared also should be with love and gratitude. You should not, if you're preparing a Satwik food with a lot of negativity, negative emotions, you don't like the person to you're cooking. And even in this case, the food will not be Satwik in nature. And that is the reason in some places, in some kitchens even now, they play some nice soothing music in the kitchen, or they play some chants, because that sets a mood in the kitchen to cook nicely with the love and gratitude. In general, yoga is not about exciting, stimulating yourself. It's all about having a balance in whatever you do. And the kind of food you eat should also be not overstimulating you. It should necessarily help you to establish that balanced path. I hope this video was useful for you to get an understanding of yogic food, what are the general principles of yogic food, and how one chooses the food, or what kind of a food that one should eat to have that mindset which is required in our spiritual sadhana. Thank you so much.